So another afternoon of trying to get this E36 to start. So I've ruled the ECU I have is good, and I have a known good crank sensor in, at least it ohms out correctly. So the next thing I'm going to do is test it for spark again to make sure that I'm not having a fueling issue now. So I had spark at one point and then lost it. The other thing I want to do is do a compression test as well. So I'm going to knock those two things out quickly and see what happens. After pulling that one plug out, I definitely don't think it's a fueling issue. And these smell very wet like fuel. So I'm gonna just connect the coil pack back up, put the plug on, ground it, and see if it has spark. Well, there's spark on cylinder 2 at least, and obviously, like I said, that spark plug smelled like fuel, so it's getting fuel. It has spark. Could be a fuel pressure issue, so I might try some starting fluid down in the cylinder and see if it'll fire up that way. So I have a different coil pack boot on. I did spray a little bit of starting fluid down in the cylinder, so I'm going to see if this does anything. Since I confirmed there's spark on one cylinder, I'm going to try another one just to make sure that I do have spark before I start diving into anything else. So that's spark on cylinder 3, so the next cylinder in line. So two things I'm going to check now are going to be A, the grounding to the coil pack. Maybe the coil packs just aren't grounding. The other thing is fuel pressure. I guess it could be compression too, so while I have this all apart, I'll check compression. Start. Well, the compression's on the low side. 90 is definitely not good, but I think it would still start with that. So, like I said, now I'm going to kind of check the grounding on the coil packs and the valve cover itself, and then check the fuel pressure. So I bought a fuel pressure test kit and pulled the feed line off the front of the fuel rail and have the gauge just in line there. So I'm going to crank the car over now and see what kind of fuel pressure I'm making. So it looks like about 70 psi, about 5 bar. So I gotta look up and see what it's supposed to have, but that doesn't seem bad. So the Bentley manual lays out fuel pressure testing a little different than how I did it. Essentially, the manual wants you to tee into the outlet line out of the fuel pump and have your gauge there and read the pressure there. Obviously my process was a little different, just going from the fuel rail, but I think it gives me a good idea and at least tells me that I have fuel pressure present, and it wasn't a low reading either. So based off the chart here, an M50 should only have about 3 bar or about 43.5 psi. Obviously I think I was probably closer to 70, but it may be based off of where I'm reading the pressure too. It's also Harbor Freight gauge and kit, so that could be part of it as well. Now that I know that I have spark, I have the fuel pressure at the rail, I had checked the injectors before too to make sure they're firing, and the spark plugs smell like they're getting fuel. Next thing I'm going to do is pull the battery out and give it a good charge. I know at times E36s can be temperamental as far as having appropriate battery voltage. The other thing I'm going to do is pull the plugs out and either replace them or clean them really good. I think with some of the ECU stuff I had, and maybe I had a bad or faulty crank sensor, I was kind of fighting having fuel and just soaking the plugs. So I want to give that a try and go from there.